All right. Howdy, Twitch. Howdy, YouTube. We are doing a bit of an unscheduled stream here because we're wanting to be a little bit productive. Hi, I am Jimmy Moreland, audiobook narrator, voice talent, and music producer. And we've got a little bit of an unscheduled stream here because we're wanting to get some work done. And we thought it'd be nice to share a little bit of this with the folks out there who want to watch. So we are doing some audiobook narration tonight. No auditions. Usually what we do on the live stream from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern time for weekdays is we do auditions for voice acting work and for audiobooks when those do come across. Tonight, though, I wanted to get a little bit of extra audiobook work done. So we're going to be narrating an actual audiobook that we have been hired to produce. We've live narrated some of this during the regular afternoon stream, but tonight we're going to be a little bit extra productive, and we're going to see if we can't get a few chapters done. Now, this audiobook, if anyone wants to know, I can leave a link to it or whatever. But it's a very nice book written by a fellow named V.K. Passanen, and it's book 2 in this series, Tales of the Afterworld, and it's a really cool, very interesting, gritty, sort of somewhat paranormal thriller-ish. It's a lot of fun, and this is book 2, and book 2 is a duet narration, and it's my first time producing a duet narration. But what that really means for the stream here is that we're going to be jumping around in the story. We're going to be jumping ahead and skipping over our narrating partner's sections. Her audio we'll be stitching that all together later, but this isn't a line-by-line duet narration. Producing like that would be a nightmare. So this is a chapter by chapter. The point of view will switch. Sometimes every other chapter, sometimes we get some big chunks there. But for tonight we'll be doing, let's see here, I've got we're going to start on chapter 10 because we've already done some work on this book. I'll go ahead and throw the workspace up on the screen here. We'll be working through, I imagine we'll get through chapters 10, 11, 13, and maybe we'll get into 17 and or 18. I doubt we're going to get into 18. We'll probably stop at chapter 17. But there'll be some good stuff. If any of this is interesting at all, keep an eye out. This book should be out, available for you to check out. Probably, I would guess mid-June, maybe even into July when this book will be available. But if you want to hear book one, you can go check it out. V.K. Passanen is the author, and the title of the first book is Interview with Death. Very, very cool way to set up the series. Really, really fun stuff to read. I had a lot of good time there. Good old time. And we're going to get right into it. How's it going, Princess Agotica? How's it going? It's a Thursday night, and we're trying to get some work done. I hope that you've had a productive work day, but mine's not over. It's nearly midnight here on the East Coast, and we got to get more work done. So we're going to bring up the audiobook that we're working on nowadays. I'm sorry, Princess Agotica. I speak a fair amount of Spanish, but I did not. Princesa Gótica. Oh, Gothic Princess. I got it. Okay, Gothic Princess in the chat. Pero esa es hispanohablante, and that's okay. So very good. Well, welcome to the stream. We're going to be reading a pretty gothic book here. It's called Accidental Healer. Book one is called Interview with Death, and it is very much a. It's a pretty goth book if I had to describe it. So welcome to the stream. Yeah, I think Twitch prefers chat to remain in English, but I do know that obviously I think they want chat to stay in whatever you've got your stream tagged as, and this is an English speaking stream, so it feels rude. Because I do love practicing my Spanish whenever I have a chance. So, welcome to my friends of who speak any language. But we're going to be getting to work here. Feel free to ask me any questions. I'll be sort of splitting my attention between like very intense reading. Right here is my eyeline for the reading, and then right here is my eyeline for chat. So I'm going to do my best to pay attention to chat. But obviously, I don't have an audio cue when you do send a message because I'm doing audio work here, so I can't. Except for when you do that, when I hear a subscription, I definitely hear that. So thank you very much for the subscription. I appreciate that. If you're into hearing, a voice actor at work during the afternoons, I live stream auditions mostly, like from the real casting websites. But right now, I thought I'd try an evening live stream working on our book here. So we've got the text up here. I don't know if that's too small for you to see. I don't know if you're able to, if you're watching on a phone, it's probably a lost cause anyway. But if you're watching on like a big, on a computer screen, I'd be interested to know if people can see this. Actually, let me bring it up on my little thing here. Oh, that might be a little too small to see. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger to where maybe people can read along with me. Let's see here. I'm looking over here. Maybe, yeah, that looks like it's kind of legible if you're on a computer screen. So we're on chapter 10. So we are jumping in. We're picking up in the middle with chapter 10 here. But it's a cool enough story. Oh, well, lucky for you, I'm going to be reading it to you. So this is you're gonna see what audiobook work really is like. And I know I say in the title, warts and all. So you're going to see like how frequently we make mistakes when we're doing an audiobook. There's a lot of mistakes. The number that I use, it takes me about twice as long to read it as the finished product is. So this chapter is going to be about 15 minutes of recording, I would guess, and the finished product is going to end up being about 7 minutes long. So it's a 7-minute chapter, and it's going to take me about 15 minutes to read. So that'll give you an idea of how many mistakes we're about to make. But that's the life. That's what this really is like. So without further ado, we're going to, we like to keep really close track of our time. So we're going to hit space on this stopwatch, and then we're going to hit record, and we're going to go from there. We got to turn this on so that you can hear my funny punch and roll action. Here we go. And this is on. Let's bring up the text and get to work.
1.
Oh, someone else's. My narrating partner's chapter was also soloed, so we're good to go now. 10. Late night, September 1, 2007. Helix Eternal Laboratories, main complex. Undisclosed location. Mist from the underground waterfall wafted toward the ceiling of the main cavern complex. It almost reached to the platform where General Cornelius... I think that's the first time he's introduced. Oh, we need to do something real quick. Change my window size over here, so that when we hit tab, we're not going off the screen. There we go. That'll make life a whole lot easier. Back to work. Actually make this smaller to give us a little more room. Here we go. Toward the ceiling of the main cavern complex. It almost toward the ceiling of the main cavern complex. It almost reached to the platform where toward the ceiling of the main cavern complex. It almost reached to the platform where General Cornelius Adamson stood, savoring a good start. Plan A was going as foreseen, and he was delighted, as was his passenger. The passenger was old as homicide, and had dwelled within him on and off since... Come back to here. Delighted, as was his passenger. The passenger was old as homicide, and had dwelled within him on and off and on, not on and off. Delighted, as was his passenger. The passenger was old as homicide, and had dwelled within him. Delighted, as was his passenger. The passenger was old as homicide, and had dwelled within him off and on since Lester Ackerman recruited him for a special project. He was an Army private, just back to the States from the Korean... Kind of stumbling through that there. Recruited him for a special project. He was an Army private, just back to the States from the Korean War and Chosin's frozen hell. Adamson had been overlooked by superiors who seemed to have it in for him. They would send him on the most suicidal missions, but somehow he'd returned unscathed, as if Somehow he'd returned unscathed, as if Providence had chosen him for greatness. Of course it had. The secret of his invulnerability came from the same source as Nathan Miller's. The wily man in white had revealed himself, and what he was. Got it. The same source as Nathan Miller. The wily man in white had revealed himself. The same source as Nathan Miller's. The wily man in white had revealed himself and what he was when he handed him the contract on this very spot on April 20, 1951. Back then he had stars and bars in his eyes, and now he was on the brink. April 20, 1951. Back then he had stars and bars in his eyes, and now was now on the brink. 20, 1951. Back then he had stars and April 20, 1951. Back then he had stars and bars in his eyes, and was now on the brink of receiving all that loyalty to a cause had promised. What a sentence! Ooh. April 20, 1951. Back then he had stars and bars in his eyes, and was now on the brink of receiving all that loyalty to a cause had promised. All that loyalty to a cause had promised, as stipulated in that blood contract. All right, this is quite a sentence. April 20, 1951. Back then he had stars and bars in his eyes, and was now on the brink of receiving all that loyalty to a cause had promised, as stipulated in that blood contract. Adamson breathed deeply. There was absolutely nothing like ethereal-infused air, with his hint of rose. Let's start here and scroll down a bit. deeply. Let's get a less creepy there, huh? Adamson breathed deeply. There was absolutely nothing like ethereal infused air, with its hint of rose to remind one that the pleasant to horrid smell was what one wished it to be, not the musty natural odor of cavern and bat guano. To him it was an acrid mix of blood iron, nitro, and other pleasant aromas of death and destruction. It was just part of the dream created by Lester Ackerman before his planned exit from the mortal stage, name change, and move on to greater things. He surveyed the main cavern complex and the massive turquoise iron cross. Turquoise iron cross. Interesting how I'm gonna do that. We'll be all right though. Move on to greater things. He surveyed the main cavern complex with the massive turquoise iron cross far below that was sandwiched in rock on three sides. Okay. Let's do it after this breath here. Turquoise iron cross far below that was sandwiched in rock on three sides. It was an impressive structure composed of a large central dome connected to four enormous arched triangular band shell-like arrays that extended... Ooh, can't believe I got through that. Triangular band shell-like arrays that extended flush with the cavern's east and... triangular band shell-like arrays that extended flush with the cavern's east and west walls. The waterfall behind him plunged through the north section down into the legendary River Styx, which exited the south section into an abyss. Down into the legendary River Styx, which exited the south section into an abyss in which no living thing had ever reached bottom. I feel like I stumbled down into the legendary River Styx, which exited the south section into an abyss in which no... Okay, that is correct. I thought we might have had a typo. Down into the legendary River Styx, which exited down into the legendary River Styx, which exited the south section into an abyss in which no living... down into the legendary River Styx, which exited the south section... Wow. Down into the legendary River Styx, which exited the south section into an abyss in which no living thing had ever reached bottom. Or at least, they never returned to tell about it. In the central dome, the river contained a gateway to a place beyond Adamson's comprehension. While he'd never traveled across, his passenger had many times. Okay, gotcha. Place beyond Adamson's comprehension. While he'd never traveled across, his passenger had many times to spread mayhem and mass murder to many places beyond. Okay. Just totally lost my space there. Beyond Adamson's comprehension. While he'd never traveled across, we want to start. I like the way I read the first part of it. Across, his passenger had many times. God damn it, I keep losing my spot here. This is a very long paragraph, and it's easy to get lost here. His passenger had many times to spread mayhem and mass murder to many places beyond Adamson's narrow confines within Reality 313. Known as the Terrarium, the mind-boggling power source and gateway was named by co-creator Ackerman, but Adamson hated the name and said as much during its construction. He preferred a more descriptive epithet and called it the Dream Machine. Adamson's passenger and said as much during its construction. He preferred a more descriptive epithet and said as much during its construction. He preferred a more descriptive epithet and called it the Dream Machine. Adamson's passenger chuckled heartily inside his head. If not for me, you would have been among the... how does this... Wait, if not for me, you would have been among the dead in the abyss of Styx, ? Okay. Peter chuckled heartily and... Got the bubblies. All right. Peter chuckled heartily inside his head. If not for me, you would have been among the dead in the abyss of Styx. That is why I felt comfortable to dare insubordination. Ah, the foolishness. Let's see here. Let's go here. Among the dead in the abyss of Styx. That is why I felt comfortable to dare insubordination. Ah, the foolishness of youth, Adamson said inside his head. Yes, indeed, the voice said with a distant tone, as if reaching back through eons. Adamson peered left to the horseshoe-shaped lab that surrounded the ridiculously oversized meeting area and its 100 empty chairs that would soon be filled with his next. And we need to scroll. Here we go. Right here. Ridiculously oversized meeting area and its 100 empty chairs that would soon be filled with his next batch of lab rats. Ridiculously oversized meeting area. All right, Princessa, so good to see you. Glad for you to stop by. Thanks for the subscribe. We'll see you around. Cheers. Hope you feel better. Ridiculously oversized meeting area. Ridiculously oversized meeting area and its 100 empty chairs that would soon be filled with his next batch of lab rats. His gaze panned as if seeing it all for the first time again. He tried to take it all in, but failed. "Impressive, is it not?" said the voice within Adamson. "Impressive, is it not?" said the voice within Adamson. He didn't bother to nod as his mentor continued. "Among my greatest creations, if I do say so myself. And Lester was a wonderful shell to work with to complete this part of my father's work. Now your benefactor awaits the harvest which he has left. Complete this part of my father's work. Now your benefactor awaits the harvest which complete this part of my father's work. Now your benefactor awaits the harvest which he has left for you to reap. I will not let you down, my friend. I have every confidence that you will not, and it is not me you need to worry about. As your contract states, my father rewards those who complete his tasks, but his vengeance is legion for those who fail." Who is this here? Trying to remember who is speaking here in this line here. We're going to pause the timer for a second while we reacquaint ourselves with this book that we've been hired to read. Let's hear. So, I'm going to assume a soothing, appealing voice from another mind. It was like morning light after soft rain. So this is going to be Dolores Destiny, I feel. Because Dolores Destiny is inside the head of Dr. Antonia D'Amato. Whereas Dr. Albert Kane, I can't remember who's in his head. I think someone's even scarier is in his head. Yeah, Dolores Destiny. Whose normally green eyes were dark blue and spoke without speaking. Adamson. Sweet Destiny, where is our typhoid Mary now? She is temporarily beyond my sight, said the far-seeing Eternal. Okay. Okay. We are back to... Yes, indeedy. Okay, yes, indeedy. All right. Those who complete his tasks, but his vengeance... All right, here we go. Let's go back to the timer. Hit it again. Text. And here we go. Legion for those who fail. Yes, indeedy, said a voice. Legion for those who fail. Yes, indeedy, said a soothing, appealing voice from another mind. It was like, I want to be like morning light after soft rain. Legion for those who fail. Yes, indeed. Legion for those who fail. Yes, indeedy, said a soothing, appealing voice from another mind. It was like morning light after soft rain. But like war, like morning light after soft rain. But like war, I have complete confidence in you, Mr. Fire and Brimstone. Adamson snapped to attention, turning about face to the unimpressive, pasty white specimen. Mr. Fire and Brimstone. Adamson snapped to attention, turning about face to the unimpressive, pasty white specimen, Dr. Albert Kane. By his side was the olive-skinned, green-eyed she-devil, Dr. Antonia D'Amato. It was a pairing like French fries smothered in ketchup on a plate. Dr. Antonia D'Amato. It was a pairing like French fries smothered in ketchup on a plate next to the finest, most delicately prepared filet mignon that was extra rare with an ice-cold center. He wanted to chuckle with an ice-cold center. He wanted to chuckle at the bony with an ice-cold center. He wanted to chuckle at the bony research scientist who always worked hard to keep his voice from sounding meek and mild. He normally took pleasure in striking terror into the skinny little dweeb, but he dared not at that moment. Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. This is the work of audiobook production. So, we read the wrong voice for this, and now we're never going to get this tab back. I don't know why Chrome has started doing this. Certain parts of my spreadsheet are just like, nah, you're never going to see us again. This whole table, in fact, is just like, nah, wait, oh, here's the bottom part of the table. Chapter 10 is the part I want to see. Thank you, there it is. Chrome, my God. So, we need to go back to, we got to figure out where we need to go back to. The yes indeedy. So that was, I feel like maybe here. Adamson snapped to it just before that. But like, nope, it is here. Yes, indeedy. So I read that as though the voice was Dolores Destiny, which is a female voice. This, however, the benefactor, is a male voice. We just need to make it soothing and appealing. Yes, indeedy. But like war, I have complete confidence in you, Mr. Fire and Brimstone. So we're going to actually treat this like a pickup. We're going to punch in, and we're going to record these lines as though they're pickups. Legion for those who fail. Yes, indeedy. Legion for those who fail. Yes, indeedy, said a soothing, appealing voice. We're actually going to leave that just as it is, and later when we do the edit, I'll be able to figure it out. Like morning light after and then we'll do the punch in here. Like morning light after soft rain. But like war, I have complete like morning light after soft rain. But like war, I have complete confidence in you, Mr. Fire and Brimstone. Adamson snapped to attention. There we go. That'll be plenty enough to get us back on track. All right. Let's get back to where we were here. Who? Terror into the skinny little dweeb, but he dared not. Okay. This is a perfect spot to pick back up. We're going to turn our stopwatch back on, and let's go. Terror into the skinny little dweeb, but he dared not at that moment, since it wasn't Kane's mind that had spoken. Terror into the skinny little dweeb, but he dared not at that moment, since it wasn't Kane's mind that had spoken. How the benefactor could stand possessing such a puny shell was beyond him. Like Adamson, both Kane and D'Amato had signed blood contracts allowing their passengers to dwell within their shells whenever they saw fit. But unlike D'Amato, who shared consciousness with the blue-eyed farseer, Dolores Destiny, their shells whenever they saw fit. But unlike D'Amato, who shared consciousness with the blue-eyed farseer, their shells whenever they saw fit. But unlike D'Amato, who shared consciousness with the blue-eyed farseer Dolores Destiny, the benefactor shared consciousness with no one. Adamson regarded D'Amato, whose normally green eyes were dark blue, and spoke without speaking. "Ah, sweet Destiny, where is our typhoid Mary now?" "She is temporarily beyond my sight," said the "Is our typhoid Mary now?" "She is temporarily beyond my sight," said the far-seeing Eternal. "But so is everyone else in the small town where I led her. My last vision was of Ryan Mender. His lips were locked with Mary's as he attempted to revive her after she died. I believe he was successful, but I also believe there is more to Mary than I have foreseen." "Did Mender survive?" asked Adamson with a wisp of panic as his mind raced. His eyes darted once between Kane and D'Amato's mortal shells. "I can't answer that," said Destiny. "I am still recovering from the shock of their meeting that left me blind." "Don't worry. This game isn't over yet," said the benefactor. "Have faith that what happened in January to the Mender boy was a harbinger of—" "Isn't over yet," said the benefactor. "Have faith that what happened in January to the Mender boy was a harbinger of favorable outcomes." Adamson didn't bother hiding his apprehension. "Ah, Mr. Fire and Brimstone, come now. You know my son has your back, and has since you inked my contract and swore your soul to me. So chin up. You are among the few in the realities to whom my son, War, has taken a liking. And as always, he will guide you. And when Mender and Mary are fully ripe and successfully harvested, I will see to it that you enjoy a long existence, unknown since the first mortals, to rule this via—" Pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. "Enjoy a long existence, unknown since the first mortals, to rule this reality as you see fit." Adamson broke the acne-scarred granite of his face and grinned. Good. All right, we come back over here. We stop our stopwatch. We're going to call that 1821 on chapter 10. So we went a bit long, but we were having fun. 1821. Do we want to edit right away? Yeah, let's go back and forth. Edit what we've got, just so that we've got some variety in what we're doing, so we don't get stuck in a rut too much. Also, hydrate. Hydration is important, my friends. Okay, so this edit is going to be super fast. According to my little cheat sheet here, I'm going to guess that this edit will take 2.5 to 3 minutes. Clear that. Come back to here. Turn that off. 10. All right. Now we're going to drag down our room tone cheaters here. And we're going to grab this. Which one are we copying? I guess for now, it doesn't really matter. Copy this. Place our initial cut here. Get our zoom level set how we like it. Get a cut here. Save. And now we're going to start our stopwatch and go, go, go. So you can watch the clock along with me. Oh, I've never done an edit with the clock like on the screen. It's going to make me so nervous. All right, here we go. All right, so we've got this. Paste here, paste here. Actually, we do want to copy this one here because we've got a cut right here. Oh my God, I'm moving so slow. The clock in my face, it's got me in my head. And here it is. The edit is super fast. We don't listen as we edit unless there's something weird that we see. this little pop here. What is that?
He'd returned unscathed, as if...
That sounds fine to me. We don't worry too much about little mouth clicks, little nasal or sinus clicks, because we trust in our noise reduction tools. That is the RX suite. We trust in our noise reduction to catch anything. You got to trust your tools, folks. If not, then what's the point of having them, you know? So this is it. This is what editing an audiobook looks like. So what I'm doing here is I'm hitting tab with my left hand to jump to the next edit point. And then with the mouse, I'm just dragging out the end of the prior clip and the beginning of the next clip. Just dragging it out. Real simple like. Real simple like. Now we're going, let's see here. Is this where we did our pickup? I bet it is. It is. Okay. So we got to be careful here, and we might even want to listen here because I actually want to come back to there and then maybe there. Let's listen.
For those who fail. Yes, indeedy, said a soothing, appealing voice from another mind. It was like morning light after soft rain. But like war, I have complete confidence in you, Mr. Fire and Brimstone. Adamson snapped to attention. Fire and Brimstone. Adamson snapped to attention.
All right, there we go. And we're good through the rest of the production. Pickup edits. And we treated that little section like a pickup because of the way we had to go back in the middle of our recording there. Pickup edits do take longer than just your standard punch and roll edits because the process is a little bit different, and that's just how she goes. All right, paste, delete, grab this one, boom. 237 on the edit. What did I say? What did I say? All right, we select the entire track, we apply our standard crossfades, and then we bounce this out. This is chapter 10. Thank you very much. Let's make sure that's going to the right folder. Is this going to the right folder? God's sakes. M2 right. Yep. All right. Yep. All that looks good. And we're going to go ahead and load this up into Positron. I'm going to briefly come off here so I don't dox myself. I don't know if it's going to happen. Oh, yeah, just about happened. You don't get all the information. All right. So Positron has a hard time being not maximized. So you can see what this looks like. Poor Positron just really doesn't like being off to the side here. So we'll make it full screen for a second here. We're gonna go. We'll do a new window and we'll browse to. Where are we? On the M2 right, Pro Tools bounces, audiobooks, this one, chapter 10, drag that over onto our Positron window here, and we'll be good to go. All right, if you'll excuse the marks, I was doing some painting earlier. I'm not just a dirty boy. I was painting some furniture. I've got the mom coming to visit all the way from Texas. And very excited to see her. Don't get to see her very often up here in Maine, but she's coming to visit, and we're painting her the bed frame that's going to go in the room that she's going to stay in. So that's what the paint is. That's the color of the paint. So let's go back to Pro Tools. Let's get our next track ready to go. We're not going to mess with Positron on this one just yet. The next chapter is chapter 11 is ours, correct? Let's go back to Positron and make you not full screen as much as that makes you angry. Man, I don't know what is going on with oh my god. Maybe I just need to reload the tab. Okay, here we go. All right, chapter 11 is ours. I just marked with a simple X the chapters that belong to us. So chapter 11 is next. Super short chapter, only 3 minutes. So we'll just do it and then edit it. We'll just keep keep going back and forth. I do want to track my time here. 2:37 on the edit of that last one. 02, 37, and then we mark the length of that chapter, and we do that by looking way up here. It's an 8:18. 08:18. So there we go. And our ratio for that chapter was 2.53, which is not terrible. We like to be closer to 2.3. That's sort of where our trend has been leading us in our audiobook production journey. But 2.5, we're not mad about it. If we could lock in a 2.5 for forever, for every project we ever do in the future, then we would be quite happy with that. But we try to improve where we can. Okay, we've got chapter 11 up. We've got our stopwatch ready to go. This is analyzing, I suppose. So let's get ready to go for chapter 11. What's happening? The Watchtower, 10 miles southwest of Packer City, Colorado. Oh, this really is, it's going to be so short. Cool. All right. So we'll get the stopwatch ready to go, get this armed and ready to go. All right. Let's get to work. Boom, boom, boom. 11. 9:45 p.m. The Watchtower, 10 miles southwest of Packer City, Colorado. Ryan parked in the garage next to Suzanne's green Land Rover. He dashed to the shower across from the laundry room in the short hall that led to the dining room. He hoped to wash away his night so as not to scare Suzanne. Once presentable, he'd downplay the injury, tell her what happened, and hope to get through to... Presentable, he'd downplay the injury, tell her what happened, and hope to get through to the Mears County Sheriff's Office. Otherwise, the injured woman would be fending for herself until he spoke to Sheriff Pete. Get through to the Mears County Sheriff's Office. Otherwise, the injured woman would be fending for herself until he spoke to Sheriff Pete or Under Sheriff Joe in the morning. He looked in the mirror. What the hell are you? And why did... okay. He's not talking to himself. He looked in the mirror. What the hell are you? And why did you take Mel's Jeep? He thought, as the lady's memories replayed, drifting through his mind like a frigid breeze, making him feel slippery again. Like he was losing it again, losing everything he'd found since he lost it in Iraq. He had to protect this woman. Why? He had no choice. Let's not get too dramatic about that. He had to protect this woman. Why? He had no choice. He had promised the gentleman... He had to protect this woman. Why? He had no choice. He had promised the gentleman holding the girl in the pink dress. He gripped his forehead with his good hand. Come on. Gentleman holding the girl in the pink dress. He gripped his forehead with his good hand to keep his brain from exploding. There we go. Stop the timer at 2:07. We'll call it 2:07 here. And we got an email. Let's see if it's an audition that we want to do. These are Voice123 auditions, so they're not super timely. They're timely-ish, but they can wait. Okay. 2:07. Let's go ahead and mark that down here. 00, 02, 07. There we go. So this edit's going to be super fast. Pre-make that first cut. Let's bring the room tone down to here. And, yeah. Okay. This is going to be fast. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. We grab this room tone. We paste it in there. We paste in the 2 seconds of room tone there. Tab to the next transient, and go. I haven't even put the keyboard on the desk, which is usually something I do for an edit. But this is going to be so fast that you ain't going to believe it. There it is. There's the edit done. Let's grab that. Boom. Stop. 28 seconds. That feels pretty good to me. Hit our automatic crossfades. Bounce this out as chapter 11. Go. So 28 seconds. So we're going to track that in our time here. That was a 28-second edit, 000028. And the track duration was 1:14 for that chapter, 0001:14. So we can see that our ratio for that one chapter was 2.09. Not bad at all. Okay, we skip a chapter. Chapter 12 is not ours. Chapter 13 is, and I believe, it's getting late, my friends. It is midnight here on the East Coast. But maybe we do one more chapter. Let's be productive. Let's be productive, a productive little boy. And we're going to go ahead and do chapter 13. So let's get ready to do that. Small. Chapter 13. Let's go ahead and bring the room tone down just to give ourselves a visual marker there. All right. And we got our zoom level set. Let's go ahead and upload the audio that we just got. Chapter 11. Very strange what's happening there. Chapter 11 goes in here. There we go. We could mess with the pickups. You know, we'll mess with the pickups after we do chapter 13. We'll do chapter 13. We will edit, start the upload, and then we'll look at the pickups for chapter 10 and 11 and see what we're going to do from there. But for the time being, we're going to stop wasting time, and we're going to get back to this here. Clear that because we've already tracked it. Chapter 13 is up here, and let's go down. This is a chapter that will be narrated by our narrating partner, Teresa Bakken. She's a total rock star. Let's see here. And this is going to be a little bit of a longer chapter. How many pages are we talking here? I can't trust my page count over here because I've changed the font on this thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. Not so bad. And I feel like we're reading pretty well tonight. So we're ready to go. We're gonna hydrate. Hydration, very important. Are you hydrated? Have you been drinking water? You better. Excuse me. And then we're going to do, all right, little life hack for anyone doing any kind of audiobook narration, obviously, but voiceover, any kind of public speaking. If you're a teacher and you're talking all day and you start to get really smacky, ice drops is the product. I'm sure it's hard to see on the stream here. Ice drops. You buy them in a big box. I've got a box in this in a cabinet with, I think there's 50 of them, or maybe even 100 of these little guys in this box. Maybe it was $20 on Amazon. I can't remember. That box has lasted me a long time. But these things are a lifesaver. They sort of, they're sugar-free, and the sugar substitute that they use, I can't remember which one it is, and the text is very small. I feel like a boomer. But the sugar substitute that they use, it, in addition to the mintiness helping, but the sugar substitute, like, chemically has a saliva-producing effect. So if you start to get dry mouth and you start to get smacky, these things are awesome. Just a couple drops every few pages. I know Scott Brick said in an interview, he has like this like routine where like every time he turns the page, if he's doing a physical book or whatever, but every time there's a new page on his script, he's got warm beverage, cold, not cold, room temperature beverage, and ice drops. He'll do a sip of his warm throat coat tea, a sip of his room temperature water, and then he'll do a little bit of the ice drops there. And that system allows that man to narrate like an absolute monster. He does 8-hour narrations, like just monster marathon sessions. I could not imagine it. We're feeling like we're being productive because we're narrating for 45 minutes on stream. But we got to get through this. We got to get this book done and out because I want people to be able to hear it because it's a good one. But we're going to get ready to go here. Chapter 13 is up on the screen. We got the timer up. Let's go.
13. Little croak there. 13. 10:15 p.m., Saturday, September 1, 2007, north of downtown Packer City. Mears County. Hello? What's his name? North of downtown Packer City. Mears County Sheriff Pete Maxwell was at a going-away party for Deputy Bob Roberts when he got the call from Grayson Dispatch. After 10 years of faithful service to the remote Colorado County and its only town, Bob was relocating to Federal Way, Washington, a busy suburb between Seattle and Tacoma. He was moving to fill a detective position for the much larger police force, and Sheriff Maxwell, or Pete as most people called him, wanted Bob to have a proper send-off. It was Pete's wife, Patsy, and their grown daughter, Mandy Wicker, who suggested having the entire... okay. Wanted Bob to have a proper send-off. It was Pete's wife, Patsy, and their grown daughter, Mandy Wicker, who suggested having the entire sheriff's office and families use their home to say goodbye to a dear friend who was moving up in the world. The house was crowded, and the party was far from winding down when Rhonda rained on Bob's farewell parade. Patsy and Mandy would have to entertain since Pete was on duty and would have to... On duty, come on now. Rained on Bob's farewell parade. Patsy and Mandy would have to entertain since Pete was on duty and would have to brave the storm to visit the watchtower. He didn't mind. He liked Ryan. Oh, watchtower. He didn't mind. He liked Ryan, adored his wife and son, and loved... watchtower. He didn't mind. He liked Ryan, adored his wife and son, and loved their restaurant, which had added a few inches to his waistline. The small-town sheriff did hate that cell service was terrible southwest of Lake Hotchkiss. Added a few inches to his waistline. He did hate... Where am I? Completely lost. It's we're at the page break. Added a few inches to his waistline. The small-town sheriff did hate that cell service was terrible southwest of Lake Hotchkiss. It would have been nice to know a little more before heading to the tower. All he knew was what Rhonda told him. Something about a stolen car and an injured man, but the call dropped... About a stolen car and an injured man, but the call dropped before she could get further details concerning the driver's location and current condition. Pete grabbed his brown leather jacket and pulled it on over his red flannel long sleeve. He put on his pulled it on over his red flannel long sleeve. He put on his brown cowboy hat with the gold star and walked outside wearing blue jeans and brown hiking boots. He stopped on the porch. Deputy Don Glickman's red Jeep Wrangler was parked behind his gunmetal 4Runner. He shook his head and stepped back inside. Let's make that more clear. Blue jeans and brown hiking boots. Blue jeans and brown hiking boots. He stopped on the porch. Deputy Don Glickman's red Jeep Wrangler was parked behind his gunmetal 4Runner. He shook his head and stepped back inside. "Hey, Don, could you move your car?" he asked in a... He shook his head and stepped back inside. "Hey, Don, could you move your car?" he asked in a restrained tone. "Sorry about that. Wasn't much room to park when I got here." "No problem," said Pete. Once the way was clear, Sheriff Pete headed down the gravel driveway and turned south onto Grayson Highway. He passed through town over the Howard Creek Bridge. You get to see the insanity that starts to develop when you're trapped in the booth for so long. This is the life of audiobook narrators everywhere. And turned south onto Grayson Highway. He passed through town, over the Howard Creek Bridge, past Carson's Horse Ranch, and turned south onto Grayson Highway. He passed through town, over the Howard Creek Bridge, past Carson's Horse Ranch, and turned toward the lakes. Fortunately, the storm had lifted, but his lids were heavy. For the next 30 minutes he kept his mind busy thinking about paranoid old Brigham and his militia group. How glad he was, God rest his soul, that the bastard who built the watchtower wasn't his headache anymore. How much better that a real war hero watchtower wasn't his headache anymore. How much better that a real war hero lived in his tower wasn't his headache anymore. How much better
Little mouth clicky there.
tower wasn't his headache anymore. How much better that a real war hero lived in his home rather than a McVeigh wannabe who believed the country was out to get him. Before Pete knew it, he was looking up at the lights of the watchtower, and soon parked in Medward.
Who?
But he was looking up at the lights of the watchtower, and soon parked in Mender's driveway. Pete was in his graying late 50s with a couple dozen unwanted pounds, and felt every year and every ounce as he ambled toward the front door. He stretched his orbits. He stretched his orbits. He'd slept little the previous night, and the itch of the Sandman had caught up with him about the time Rhonda called. It didn't help that he'd wolfed down extra helpings.
Whoa, my monitor just made a loud clicky noise.
Caught up with him about the time Rhonda called. It didn't help that he'd wolfed down extra helpings of Patsy's good cooking and 3 too many
Come on. That's actually a fine place to jump in here.
helpings of Patsy's good cooking and
No, let's do the whole line
caught
again.
up with him about the time Rhonda called. It didn't help that he'd wolfed down extra helpings of Patsy's good cooking and 3 too many slices of Jocelyn Turner's drop-dead cherry cheesecake. It was cold that week, unseasonably cold. Turner's drop-dead cherry cheesecake. It was cold that week, unseasonably cold. And after the thunder...
Come on.
Turner's drop-dead cherry cheesecake. It was cold that week, unseasonably cold. And after the thunderstorm
that
week, unseasonably cold. And after the thunderstorm, a few extra degrees were shed from thermometers. Pete blew mist into aching, ungloved fingers. He rubbed his hands together as he walked up the steps to the porchway. All he could think about was getting the call over with so he could head home and hit the sack. He needed sleep. Precious sleep.
Come on.
So he could head home and hit the sack. He needed sleep. Precious sleep. It was why he had dreaded Bob's party since that morning. He felt guilty feeling that way, so he...
Come on.
Dreaded Bob's party since that morning. He felt guilty feeling that way, so he'd sucked it up as usual and put on a happy face for his friend. The truth was, Pete was mad at Bob for leaving in the first place. Bob was his right-hand man. Without him, he would be one-armed, with Mike, Don, and Undersheriff Joe barely able to fill his shoes. Not making Bob Undersheriff was something he couldn't stop kicking himself over. Also, there was an unshakable feeling that Bob had some unspoken reason. Couldn't stop kicking himself over. Also, there was an unshakable feeling that Bob had some unspoken reason for leaving. If there was, his friend's lips were sealed. Maybe it was as it appeared, a good friend jumping at an opportunity to work with a senior detective. Maybe it was as it appeared. Maybe it was as it appeared, a good friend jumping at an opportunity to work with a senior detective who helped bring down Gary Ridgway, the monstrous Green River killer. Whatever the reason, Bob was leaving, and there was no stopping him. Pete panted at the front door, stood straight, and sucked in his gut as best he could. He inhaled deeply and exhaled, then softly knocked instead of ringing in case Alex was asleep. He inhaled deeply and exhaled, then softly knocked instead of ringing in case Alex was asleep. Ryan answered as if he'd been waiting in the foyer. Suzanne was by his side wearing a green CSU sweatshirt, matching sweatpants, and her funky bunny slippers. She was wearing no makeup, not that she needed any. Even at that hour, Pete thought she looked... No makeup, not that she needed any. Even at that hour, Pete thought she looked ready for a photo shoot. "Pete, come in," said Ryan. He stepped onto the white marble. "Hey, Rhonda reported a dropped call from you.
mentioned something about a stolen car and an injured man. I tell you, I don't mean to be a nag, but you really need to get one of them sat phones like most people have And about a stolen car and an injured man. I tell you, I don't mean to be a nag, but you really need to get one of them sat phones like most people have. And about a stolen car and an injured man. I tell you, I don't mean to be a nag, but you really need to get one of them sat phones like most people have this side of the lake. I mean, especially after what happened with Alex last year. Ryan glowered and sighed. I had one. It's trashed at the bottom of the rock. Alex accidentally dropped it off the front deck while chatting with his nana, he said as he motioned unnecessarily to the deck beyond the 3 walls of tall windows. Let's see here. Where are we going to pick that up? Maybe here? The front deck while chatting with his nana. The front deck while chatting with his nana, he said as he motioned unnecessarily to the deck beyond the 3 walls of tall windows that created the octagon's the 3 walls of tall windows that created the octagon's northwest, north, and northeast facets. Pete knew the place. North and northeast facets. Pete knew the place. He'd been out more than once before Norsworthy went off the deep end, his wife north and northeast facets. Pete knew the place. He'd been out more than once before Norsworthy went off the deep end, his wife divorced him, and he formed his personal militia prior to his stroke and death 12 years later. Sorry, those things aren't cheap. Tell me about it. Heading up to Denver to pick up a new one next week. Pete huffed a chuckle. So, back to why you called Rhonda. Tell me what happened. Well, first off, Rhonda heard me wrong. It wasn't a guy, it was a girl, a young lady. She almost died, but I brought her back. It was bad. Let's get Ryan's. Sorry, those things aren't cheap. So, back to why you called Rhonda. We got some bubblies. Oh, there we go. Oh, more. Called Rhonda. Tell me what happened. Well, first off, Rhonda heard me wrong. It wasn't a guy, it was a girl, a young lady. She almost died, but I brought her back. It was bad, but could have been worse. She has a nasty gash on her forehead, though, Ryan said, pointing at his own with a bandaged hand. But get this. She was driving Melvin's Jeep. Are you sure? Bet my life on it. Look, let's sit. I'll tell you everything. I hate to interrupt, said Suzanne, but can I get you a cup of coffee? You look like you need it. That bad, huh? Asked Pete. She laughed, short and sweet. Yeah, that bad. You look beat. Thanks, Suzanne. You're a real sweetheart. A cup of joe would be nice. Cream and sugar, please. She smiled with a wink, pointed, and said, You got it. Pete sat, placed his hat on the table, pointed, and said, You got it. Pete sat, placed his hat on the table, and glanced at Brigham's crazy paintings in the Wow, lots of hard transfers here. Pointed and said, You got it. Pete sat, placed his hat on the table, and glanced at Brigham's crazy pointed and said, You got it. Pete sat, placed his hat on the table, and glanced at Brigham's crazy paintings in the dining room. I see you didn't redecorate. Of course not. Why would I? I love these paintings. So does Alex. Kinda kooky, but you have to admit Norsworthy was an artist. Yeah, he was that, he said, trying not to roll his eyes. He kept his other opinions to himself and turned to Ryan. So, what about this woman you rescued? Ryan repeated the story he'd told Suzanne as, What about this woman you rescued? Ryan repeated this, What about this woman you rescued? Ryan repeated the story he'd told Suzanne as Pete scribbled furiously in his notebook. When Ryan paused, Pete asked, I know it was dark, but could you describe the woman?
Well, she was... But could you describe the woman? Well, she was petite, maybe 5'6". He went on to describe her in unusually vivid detail. Pete etched and shaded as Suzanne kept his cup full. When he was done, he held up the sketch. Ryan's brown eyes testified disbelief. His lips fell open, exposing the... Brown eyes testified disbelief. His lips... Little brown eyes testified disbelief. His lips fell open, exposing a small gap between shiny white teeth. He shrugged. I did a little work as a sketch artist when I was starting out in law enforcement. That was before I moved to Mears County. I did a little. Let's see here. Let's get this teeth. He shrugged. I did a little work as a sketch artist when I was starting out in law enforcement. That was before I moved to Mears County. Wow, that's the girl, minus the big gash and blood all over her face. Mears County. Wow, that's the girl, minus the big gash and blood all over her face. He shrugged and finished a third cup. He stood and glanced at Ryan's band and... He shrugged and finished a third cup. Where am I? Whoa. He shrugged and finished a third cup. He stood and glanced at Ryan's bandaged hand. He shrugged and finished a third cup. He stood and glanced at Ryan's bandaged hand. Important questions, come on. Stood and glanced at Ryan's bandaged hand. Important questions percolated in his sleep-deprived mind, like, how could you be so sure of the woman's description when you only saw her in dim light? And what happened to your hand? Before he could ask, Ryan changed the subject. Hey, by chance, do you know if Melvin made it back into town? No idea. Oh, wait. Okay, I did read that right. Okay. Do you know if Melvin made it back into town? No idea. I assume so, he said as he put on his hat and started for the door. Ryan and Suzanne followed. He turned. Tell you what, I'll swing by his house in the morning and check on him. I'm sure he just got in late and went to bed. I doubt he's even aware his Jeep's gone. Of course, I'm the one who'll have to break the news that his baby's at the bottom of the big lake. Oh, and concerning that woman you saved, there's no good shelter around the lake since all the old mines were sealed. Good thing, they're death traps. Only option tonight is to freeze to death or hike back to town and find a shed or a good Sam who'll put her up for the night. If someone does, I'm sure I'll get another call. Good Sam who'll put her up for the night. If someone does, I'm sure I'll get another call. But if I don't hear anything, I'll issue an APB in the morning and have Under Sheriff Joe come on. Good Sam who'll put her up for the night. Good Sam who'll put her up for the night. If someone does, I'm sure I'll get another call. But if I don't hear anything, I'll issue an APB in the morning and have Under Sheriff... I'm sure I'll get another call. But if I don't hear anything, I'll issue an APB in the morning and have Under Sheriff Joe and the rest of my crew search around the lake. While they're at it, I'll call local lodgings to see if anyone's missing. Well, you two have a good night. Little squeak there. Local lodgings to see if anyone's missing. Well, you two... Are you hearing that squeak? Local lodgings to see if anyone's missing. Well, you two have a good night. You've had a rough one, so get some sleep. I know I'll try, and... You've had a rough one, so get some sleep. I know I'll try, and then we'll talk again tomorrow. Whoop, 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 whoop. Please stop the timer. I'm going to call that 1910, because I'm not very good at alt-tabbing, apparently. What's this email? What do we got? We got another Voice123 job, but we're going to not do that. We're going to save that for the stream tomorrow. I guess we're going to reload the page, because it cannot... We said 1910, right? 0019. Really? 1910? On something that my estimate was 2539? Really? Holy, are we professionals? We are so good at this. Okay. We're going to run right into the edit.
The edit now should take 2.5 to 3 minutes. Save. Whatever you're doing, hydrate, and then save your work. The two things that you're probably not doing often enough. Hydrating and hitting save. All right. Let's bring up our timer here. And I'm actually, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do? I need to see if my Windows resizer works for Pro Tools, and I need to have a solution for this because I don't want to have this stopwatch of death glaring me in the eye. So we're going to actually briefly bring this back to full screen. Oh, look at all of this room for activities. Holy. All right. And now we're going to go back here to the stopwatch. And we're going to hit space and then edit, edit, edit. We're actually going to turn that off. So hopefully it's a little bit less annoying to hear me talk. Insert joke there. All right, here we go. We're going to do, we're checking to make sure no one has chatted when we've missed it. I think we're still Gucci. Let's go. Here is the stopwatch. Go. So we're going to drag in our little sections of room tone there for the intro. We're dragging in a section of room tone. We're actually pasting it in there. And that's the little intro. The reason I've got those color coded, it just makes, it makes life easier for me to color code those bits of room tone. I know that the green one is 0.075 seconds long. The yellow one is 0.2 seconds long, and so forth. Like I know, and each of those durations of room tone has a specific purpose. So for the very beginning of any chapter, it gets a green block of room tone. That's the standard, because Audible/ACX wants a certain amount of silence, and I put silence in scare quotes because it's not pure silence, it's room tone. They want a certain amount of room tone at the start of a chapter rather than, chapter 1 starting at, 0.0001 milliseconds into the chapter. Let me make sure this transition's good.
Maybe it was as it appeared, a good friend jumping at an...
We want a little bit more of a gap there.
Maybe it was as it appeared, a good friend...
That's fine. There we go. So yeah, I've got a standard. The more things you can standardize in your workflow, we're just going to do that. And we're going to trust. We're not even going to listen to it because we are pros. The more things you can standardize in your workflow, such as, the beginning and end of chapters, having standardized bits or blocks of room tone that you can copy paste or drag and drop in. That'll make your life easier. That'll make your projects consistent. Once you know that doing it a certain way is going to pass ACX specs, well, then that's one more thing you never have to worry about with passing ACX specs. It's a great thing. So here we go. And I feel like we are nearing the end of the chapter. I think I recognized that one peak. And I may be turning myself into a liar. How far are we from the end of the chapter? There it is. Grab that, paste, and that lets me drag in that. Now I come over here and hit stop. Just like we predicted, 247 on the edit. We're going to bounce that out. This is chapter 13, not chapter 12. Very important to get that right because we're going to be doing lots and lots of really obnoxious, not complicated, but important file management later on as we start working with files from our narrating partner, Teresa, when she starts delivering, her finished audio files to me to start incorporating and mastering and then getting ready to put into the project. It's going to be very important that I keep everything straight. All right, we're putting in our edit time, and now we're putting in the finished hour time here for this section. It was 10 minutes. 1011. Let's look at the ratio there. 2.16, we love to see it. Anything below 2.3 is we are friggin' thrilled with. All right. So the next chapter to read, God, I really could keep going, but you know what? It is 12:30 in the a.m. over here on the East Coast. We are going to drag in our... So I think we're done narrating. We're not going to narrate any new chapters because otherwise it's got to stop somewhere. It's got to stop somewhere. Let's take a look here. Let's bring this back. And we're kind of cheating a little bit by having it upload on this screen, but we're going to open up pickups on this screen. So it may be a little scary to look and see, oh my God, 30 pickups? Like, what the hell? Like, are we idiots? Can we not read? Problem is, I need to figure out a way to turn this off for the whole project, but it's just something we have to deal with for right now. They are beta testing a new noise detection feature, and it is way, way too aggressive. So, noise detected, plop. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a plop in our audiobook. Let's hear what it thinks is a plop.
Providence had chosen him for greatness. Of course it had.
Did you hear a plop? I didn't hear a plop. This feature isn't beta testing. We're not giving our friends at Positron a hard time. We're just saying that is pretty funny that plop is their description of the noise. Okay, we're gonna filter out all of this beta test feature here. Yes. And now we can see how many... It doesn't show us how many annotations there are, but we can see that it filtered out a ton of those noises that aren't really noises. We trust in RX mouth declick to capture and eliminate any actual mouth noises. So for right now, we just want Positron to do its main job for us, which is like, did I say the right words in the right order? Did the audio start at the right part? Yes, it did. Word inserted, ED. Let's hear it.
Missions, but somehow he'd returned unscathed.
He had returned. That is a typo. Now this might be, oh, maybe I need to update the script that's on here. Let's compare it. Let's see, the easiest way would be to just do a Control F and find a similar bit of text, but we're almost there. But somehow he'd returned. This is, looks like first paragraph. Somehow he'd, nope. Okay. Let's make sure that we really do feel this is a typo. They would send him on the most suicidal missions, but somehow he'd return unscathed. No, that is correct. That is my mess up. I need to do a pickup on that. Positron has a really hard time parsing dates. It almost always shows dates as being incorrect, though it actually was fine with September 1, 2007. Interesting that it was fine with this. I think because I say 2007, whereas here, maybe for numbers, it's expecting 1,951, which wouldn't it be funny if that's how we said numbers? Shout out to me having a very, very hard time with saying years in Spanish class. 1951. Holy, why is it so hard for me? 1951. Everyone, like, where's we need Gotika to come back and laugh at me in my horrible, horrible pronunciation. Anyway, we're going to say, is this correct?
On this very spot on April 20, 1951.
Okay, we're going to say that's okay. And we would have been fine to say April 20th. And in fact, we've chatted with the author, and he's fine with it being either way. But because this is a recollection of a very military man, we're gonna stick to what the author wrote and say April 20, 1951, rather than 20th. All right, what's this?
Surveyed the main cavern complex with the massive...
I said it wrong. Pick up. Although, you know what? We need to check all of these to make sure I think the script that is uploaded in here, oops, cancel. I think the script that is, please cancel, thank you. The script that has been uploaded here, and try a third time, is perhaps out of date. So we're just going to check main cavern complex, please find. And I did get that wrong. Okay, so that is a pickup. Next up, we've got
gaze panned as if seeing it all for the first time again.
Okay, let's double check. Gaze. As if seeing it all for first time again. So here is a proper typo. Now, because I don't have my big crazy thing up, let's see here. We're going to do like we've been doing, and that is coming over here and pasting typos just into the column over here. And then later, what if I do that? Oh, no. Oh, yes? Okay. I think that's fine. It's all up there. Okay. Trying different stuff here. Back to here. So that is indeed a typo. So we don't need to re-record that. We just need... and we're done. That's what? 2 pickups? Not bad. Okay, there's chapter 10. Done. Chapter 13. We're going to go back this way. Chapter 13 has been analyzed. Okay, chapter 11, 1 pickup it says, and that's probably just make sure that the end of the chapter is okay. Good to go. Cool. No pickups for chapter 11. And for chapter 13, we again are going to filter out all the noises. There's another plop. Oh my God. I just can't stop plopping. Okay. Check that the audio starts at the beginning of the chapter. Yes, it does. I don't know what's happening here. Let's see. I tell you, I don't mean to be a nag, but you really... Now, is that actually in the copy? I tell you. Don't mean to be a nag. Okay. We're going to do that as a pickup because we want to respect the author's intent with the way that the sheriff speaks. So here we go. That is a pickup. Next.
Later. Sorry, those things aren't cheap.
We've got a duplicated word. Let's see if it's here. Those things. So the author in this updated version of the manuscript that I have in front of me, this has been updated. This older one, it hasn't been updated, so we're just going to call it a typo for now, and we don't actually have to do anything about it. Okay.
When Ryan paused, Pete asked, I know it was dark.
Let's make sure this is right. Ryan paused. When Ryan paused, Pete asked, okay. Right?
When Ryan paused, Pete asked, I know it was dark.
Oh, it's actually fine. So Positron detected the word him, and it was just me taking a breath in such a way that it thinks that I said the word him when I breathed in. So that's actually one that we're going to mark as okay.
Subject. Hey, by chance, do you know if Melvin...
Let's see if this one... Melvin made. Do you know if Melvin... Okay. Here's one we're going to do a pickup because we want to respect the author's intent here.
Do you know if Melvin made it back into town? No,
Here I did say into, so that one is an okay. And chapter end is the chapter end. There we go. How many pickups is that for that chapter? Only 2. So 2 for there, 2 for there. That's not bad. For 20 minutes-ish of audio, having only 4 pickups. 1 pickup every 5 minutes is absolutely an acceptable pickup rate. So we're happy with that. We're not going to do the pickups tonight. I think the pickups will be part of the stream tomorrow afternoon. I will be live from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. 1 to about 3 p.m. Eastern. Like I said, my mama's coming to visit tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Saturday. And she'll be in town for a week. And we got to do some chores to get the house and everything else ready. So, but we're very excited to welcome home Mama. Welcome her up to here. So we got to do some chores. So I might cut the stream short, just depend on how much work there is to do. We will head over to voices.com and Voice123 and load up all the voiceover auditions, and then get back to doing some audiobook work. But we're excited to do more audiobook work. I think next week we're going to be doing quite a bit, just so that we can get the ball rolling on this and try to get this out. I'd like to have everything delivered within the next week and a half, 2 weeks if I can. But I want to appreciate folks for stopping by. Thanks to Princesa Gotica for stopping by, a Gothic princess. And for anybody else who watches this further on down the line, if you want to leave a comment on YouTube, I will respond to comments. Even on the old live videos, I will respond. If you got questions about the gear I'm using, about the software I'm using, about Positron, or about audiobooks in general, or ACX, or whatever, I'm happy to answer. Like, I love talking about this industry. I love what I do, and I hope that comes through, and I hope that people are encouraged and entertained and educated a little bit by what we're doing here. I don't know why my accent is coming out a little bit here, but it's late. It's coming up on 1 a.m., so we are going to say thank you very much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed yourself. We'll see you next time. If you want to hire me to read for you, or to talk on your commercials or whatever else you've got, link to the website's in the description. It's just veteranaudio.com. Really simple, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Jimmy Moreland, and I love you. Best of luck with your auditions and whatever else you've got going on in your business. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.